It's pretty sweet to see.
Iowa State is
And welcome to Sports on Tap, live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio. I want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Rob Trotman. We have Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy is out on location in sunny Florida, I believe, again.
Thank God.
So
I want his job.
I know. I don't know what kind of assignments he draws and how he gets them, but I'd like to be there. Let's put it that way.
I'll train him.
chocolate milk for him.
This week, yeah, chocolate milk and all sorts of sunshine for him. This week, I'd be more than happy to trade him.
Yeah. We'd like to welcome in a friend of the show, and he's been on
4 times now, I think.
4?
Yeah. I
Does that
lose track every
Does that
time.
include the phone interview?
Yeah, that would include the phone interview.
Yeah, I think it does. All right.
Jon Hunek joins us, the Massillon, Washington offensive coordinator. He also is an assistant coach on the St. Edward hockey team. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Jon, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love meeting with you guys. It's fun.
Your season at Massillon, Washington had a lot of ups and downs this year. But in your first year, how would you say, in your view, that it went for you?
Well, I first of all, I consider myself lucky to be at a program like Massillon. It's a great place, unbelievable football tradition, unbelievable support from the community. Really, regardless of what had happened in our season, the support's phenomenal. It's an unbelievable place to coach, unbelievable place to play, to manage to play. Tough year, obviously, had its ups and downs. Started out great, beat a team that's going to play in the state championship game tomorrow, so that's pretty cool. But after that, it was just a little inconsistent, I think, play from our guys. And part of that's, getting to know the players, being at a new place, trying to get them on board with everything that we're trying to do. Coach Moore does an unbelievable job there, trying to do a lot of character building and things like that. I think we got a lot of that accomplished. I think we did a really good job, improving the kids as young men. Sometimes that doesn't translate to success on the field. Usually it does. But I think between learning new stuff and getting to know the kids and, some injury issues as the season went on, led to an up and down season. I think we really laid the groundwork to be really good in the future. Again, wish this year would have went a little bit better, obviously, like anybody does who isn't in the playoffs. It doesn't finish, with the winning season. But I think the groundwork's there to be really, really good in the future. Next few years.
For you as offensive coordinator, how was it with these kids in your first year? Were they picking up the offense like you wanted? It seemed like you were putting up some really good points, and then I believe the Steubenville game, they might have scored 7, or I can't remember.
It was Austin Town Fitch.
Austin Town Fitch, we struggled.
But, a lot of the year, it seemed like a lot of the kids really liked it. Was a wide-open offense. I know we went to see a game, Youngstown Ursuline, and, passing, running, everything was clicking offensively in that game. How did the kids pick up your offensive schemes during the year?
Well, I think for the first year they did a pretty nice job. We went through a few growing pains with the same offense at St. Ed's. Just happened to be in that case where I was there the whole year. Getting the job in June, it's tough to not have that off season really to get to know the kids, really to teach the system that we run before we really have to get into it. It may not seem like it's a big deal, but, looking back on it, it might have been. When I compare it to my years at St. Ed's, the kids did a great job, really gave a great effort, really do everything you ask for. I think it was just a matter of time and a matter of, injuries to stay consistent. It was very rare that we would have the same 11 guys from week to week playing on offense. There were times where it would be, most of the time we had 2 guys out from the previous week. So really tough to develop consistency with that type of situation. Again, not to make excuses. I think a big part of that needs to be overcome with coaching, and it's just getting kids on the same page, building that chemistry. Right. And I think this year will be even a lot better just based on the fact that they've had that time with me, getting to know the other coaches on staff.
Now, what do you guys have coming back, from the past season? I mean, you've been working with the kids so far. I mean, do you have a lot that you have a lot to build on that's coming back as you guys graduate a lot of seniors?
I think that's kind of the thing that we're so excited about. Coach Moore, Coach Cups, our defensive coordinator, myself, and all of our coaches are really excited about the fact that we have, I think, 9 returning starters on defense and 8.5 returning starters on offense. So, I mean, going into this year, I know offensively we had one returning starter, one kid that had started last year that started this year for us on offense. So we really, I think, again, laid the groundwork to be really good. And sometimes you take your lumps being young. Sometimes you get lightning in the bottle and have a great season with young. We took our lumps, and hopefully that'll pay off for us, next year. But I really think that we have a ton of potential with a lot of guys getting reps. I mean, our starting tailback was a sophomore. At the end of the year, our starting quarterback was a junior. I mean, our number one leading tackler was a true freshman. This year was a freshman. I mean, so having those kids get time like that, and we had a lot of sophomores start on defense as well, I think will pay dividends in the future. It was tough to think about that. It's tough to think about that now, watching teams in the state championship, when I think we may have had the potential to get there. I think you should have the potential of Massillon to get there every year. It's tough thinking about it now, but hopefully next year, week 1, I'm thankful that we had the opportunity to get those guys reps.
Now, do you have a lot of kids on the team that are multi-sport athletes? And, how does that affect, because you said prior to going on that, going into a new system, it's good to have a off season that really builds learning the system. And if you have a lot of kids on the team that are multi-sport athletes, does that hurt the progress going into next year?
I think that's a great question. First of all, I would say that I played multiple sports in high school, so I'm a fan of guys that play multiple sports. I think competing is great. I always worry about burnout, with kids. I mean, if you do so many of the same thing, first of all, you're going to get sick of hearing my voice, which is pretty easy to do. And, but you just get sick of doing the same thing over and over, being so focused. If things don't go right, I think the kids put so much of who they are into being successful. They just don't play kind of in a freewheeling, mentality that leads to success. I mean, you just clench it too tight if that's all you care about.
You're pressing too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just leads to not reaching your potential. So I think playing other sports kind of loosens you up a little bit. At the same time, you may be developing skills and athleticism that you wouldn't be. I know having like D linemen and offensive linemen that wrestle has always paid dividends for us when we were at St. Ed's. And I know it'll pay dividends now. Having guys that play basketball, you get great ball skills, and conditioning. And then guys that run track, big deal. I think that stuff's great. Kind of the way we combat that is that, I'm part of the group that does workouts in the morning for our kids. So if you play multiple sports, you can still get that workout in. The way the rules are right now is that you can work with 4 guys with a coach individually. So we try to grab those kids when we can and try to get them going. The nice thing with them kind of knowing what we do now is that it's kind of just constant refreshers. It's not necessarily re-coaching, and so I think constantly being on guys and really that personal relationship I think is really the most important part, because kids trust you, you trust them, and it's more conducive to success. I know calling plays, it's tough when you may be worried about a kid knowing what he's doing, so I know for me, being a guy that loves to go fast and up tempo, having that hesitation to say, hey, well, I'm not sure if this kid's really going to remember what he's doing, leads to me to hesitation, leads, like Coach Mazer, Coach Cooper, the guys that are up in the box for me, leads to their hesitation, and we're not really where I want to be based on that type of situation. So having the kids just be constantly refreshed, I think, is the big part. But, yeah, it is a challenge. I think it's a challenge, but I think when all the sports in the school are on the same page, understanding all we're trying to do is be successful in everything we do, sports-wise, makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I think, having them there, 100% obviously you'd love, but, there's a lot. I remember playing multiple sports, and I think that's what a lot of kids do, but try to make them focus as much as you can. Talk about some of the seniors on the team, some that I believe are going to be gone after the season now. Lee Hurst, I know he listened to our show and commented a few times on some of the things. I thought he had a great year.
He did.
He used to play quarterback and moved and transitioned into a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Talk about that transition and what kind of kid he was in some of the seniors on your team.
Well, first of all, Lee was an unbelievable team first guy. Kind of knew that we were at a situation where it was kind of win to be in at that point, or at least, we knew we had to win the majority of our games remaining to win after that Austintown-Fitch game in which we played poorly, and we thought that putting a dynamic kid like Lee in one of our receiver spots, one of our inside receiver spots, has always been important to my offense, and something we'd kind of been missing. Would help our team the best, and Lee said whatever makes the team better, whatever helps the team. And coming from a kid that's a senior playing quarterback, you really can't ask for more as a coach than a kid that really cares that much about his teammates, that is willing to make that adjustment, and he really flourished there. I mean, he was unbelievable. I think he had like a few over 150-yard receiving games, like 180-something in his first game there. Had 2 games over 10 catches. I think he tied maybe the school record in catches in a game, which is pretty awesome for a guy that just moved into that spot. It was really that explosive player we kind of needed there. As the year went on, we lost Austin Jasinski, who was maybe potentially our best wideout before Lee came at wideout, and having Lee fill in, not at the same spot, but at receiver spot, really filled a gap that we were missing with Austin being gone. Austin comes back next year, and he'll be a really dynamic player for us. But losing him and having Lee was fantastic. So offensively, really, him and a couple of other guys, our center, Quentin Card, we lose, who had a nice year, and Michael Grimaldi had a nice year. Defensively, I know we lose Dakota Dunwitty, who was an all-district guy, really great player at the defensive line, played some linebacker early in the year. But other than that, and sorry to anybody I may have missed, but Deion Harper was one of our wideouts. We had half a year, did a nice job. Chase Piacco was another nice wideout for us. Todd Fichter, another guy. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the guys. So I don't miss anybody. I don't want to feel bad looking back on it. But we were so young that you lose some really quality kids, and may have been even better players had I had that extra year with them, I think. But we have a lot of guys coming back that we're really excited about. So, but those kids helped to lay the groundwork, especially guys who are a great example like Lee. Help lay groundwork, I think, for future success for us.
Yeah, and you guys played a very tough schedule. I mean, you're used to playing a tough schedule from coming from St. Ed's, but more than half your teams that you played made the playoffs this year. So I mean, talk a little bit about the schedule and talk a little bit about how your players kind of went week to week from it. Do they think that the next game was the biggest game, or is it more like, okay, it's just another game? Besides Canton McKinley, of course.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of build-up in the Perry game because that was a big rivalry game. It was week 1. We knew Perry was going to be good. Obviously, they ended up being really good. And so I think there was a lot of build-up to that one. But after that, when you consistently play good teams, and it was really similar to when we were at St. Ed's, you kind of just have to take it a week-by-week basis. If you overhype it every week, kids just kind of get numb to that overhyping. I always think that if you keep the message short, succinct, to the point, and really just work on improvement, I think that you end up being successful. Having kids get injured was tough to work on that improvement because we had kids injured on both sides of the ball, so it's tough to really continuously improve. You're kind of worried about teaching a kid a new position potentially in a week to fill in a spot that you thought was kind of solidified. Schedule I thought was awesome with regards to the teams we played. A lot ended up being pretty good. And in my opinion, at least me, I'd rather play great teams every week. It just like it's tough for a kid to get hyped up. Maybe this is a bad thing to say, but it's tough for a coach to get hyped up when a team's going to be a walk. It is tough to focus on improvement and things like that every week when you're kind of kids maybe playing just a half and stuff. And we didn't really have that. The counter to that is it's pretty stressful every week where you really have to win a lot to get in. You really don't have any, I guess, gimmies that are going to get you points to get you in the playoffs. So a lot different situation than D1 was for us last year at St. Ed's, and even this year where there's so many teams now in the region.
Yep.
Where I don't want to say it's easy to get in, because there's teams that miss it, obviously, and work real hard to try to get there. But I feel like it was a lot easier to get in.
You have more room for error in Division I, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely, more room for error, yeah.
Well, having a tough schedule and coming into a new program like you guys are trying to install, and then you have young players that you can build up, it's kind of like a perfect storm. So in maybe next year starting – or even the year after when these sophomores this past year are now seniors, you guys are going to be really good. The program's going to be well established, and the competition is prime every week. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be good when it does come close to hopefully for you guys playoff time, where that first playoff game is not going to be over the top.
Absolutely.
And your players are going to be in the system for a year or two. They're going to be comfortable with it, and they're going to be comfortable with competition. So that's one of the, I would have to say, coming from St. Ed's and then going, even though you're going to a Division II, where it's tougher to get into the playoffs that way, it's an easier transition, and the kids can make it easier for you also.
That's a great point. It's you're right. You're absolutely right. Having that transition is big, and you made a great point about playing tough competition when you get into the playoffs. The nice thing about being a place like Massillon is, and you guys saw when you're there, you get a pretty good crowd every week. So it's not like all of a sudden it's the playoffs, you're in front of a packed house. Kids are used to playing in front of a big crowd, so that's helpful. And very similar to the situation at St. Ed's, even this year, you see them in the playoffs kind of except for the Cleveland Heights game, kind of running through these teams. It's because they play a tough schedule. When you get to the playoffs, all of a sudden you see these teams that may have had a good year, and that's no offense to them, but you've played maybe better competition throughout the year where you're like, oh, okay, this isn't a big deal. You're not freaking out about a team that may have had a great year. You're playing a lot of teams that have had great seasons also. So you're not I don't want to say scared, but
you don't have the deer in the
worried.
headlight. No.
Absolutely, that's a great way to put it.
And I think we've seen actually some teams in the playoffs this year that have had 3 losses. A lot of times you don't see teams, I think, make the playoffs. You always have had to have 1 loss, 2 losses, maybe, to make the playoffs. Now, since teams, I think, are starting to play a little bit better competition, you get 5, 6 wins and lose 4.
Yeah.
You can still make it into the playoffs with the points.
Yeah, we would have made it in with 5 wins.
Yeah, which is interesting, to see. And, we'll kind of make that transition into the playoffs a little bit. You look at some of the teams in the playoffs. You guys played a tough Massillon Perry team.
Yeah.
It was early on in the season. Talk about what they're like. They just beat a Hudson team 10-7. Ed went over, the recap of that game. We're not used to seeing defensive games in high school football that are 10-7. Talk a little bit about Massillon Perry and what you guys faced there.
Well, the first thing I would say with them is the best thing I think about them, and I think the thing that makes a lot of high school teams successful is they really believe in what they do. They're not gonna you're not gonna see a lot during the game that you haven't seen in film, that you haven't seen them do against other teams, and some people would make the assumption that makes them easy to play against. I think in high school football, especially with high school kids, if you do stuff where your kids are confident in it and you do it, repeat it and rep it enough that the kids really feel good about it, that you're going to be successful. And that's what Perry does. They're a 4-man front team that plays cover 3, and they do the same thing. They're not going to do a ton of stuff different, but their kids are going to play fast, and their kids are going to be confident in what they're doing. They're a wing T team. They're going to be confident in that because they rep the heck out of it. It's part of the way that makes the system great. And they've been running that same system for a long time. Coach Wakefield there has been running that system for a long, long time, and that's led them to be successful. They're big up front. They got a stud tailback. Obviously, he was Mr. Football this year.
Yeah.
A great player. He rushed for like 3,100 yards at 46 TDs.
Jeez.
And he starts at corner and had a pick 6 when we played him against us. The kid's a great player, great kid. And they got a lot going on there. They'll have their hands full with LaSalle, though. That's a complete team on both sides of the ball. Return most of their kids from next year. Obviously, I'm familiar with them based on the fact that I coached with a lot of guys that coached there last year, and they did a great job. Nate Moore did a great job kind of setting the groundwork there that their guys obviously continued. And, they'll have all the handle with the Larkin kid there, who's another guy who was a potential Mr. Football candidate. So that should be a great matchup of 2 running backs that were potential Mr. Football guys in the same game. That would be pretty cool.
It's very well documented how Massillon, Washington is well revered for just because of the history and everything around it. How has the community rallied around Perry kind of in the same fashion? Has the Jackson folks and the Washington folks kind of been like, all right, obviously we don't like them, but they're one of us, so let's support them.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's been really interesting for me to see as somebody coming from a private school environment is that, a lot of the Massillon people, you'll even see some kids in our school building, whether people like it or not, I guess, that wear some Perry stuff because they have friends that go there, family that goes there. They're kind of, there's been tweets out by the school board and things like that kind of supporting the Perry team, and I think that's kind of cool. It's cool that they're supporting another public school, being a public school in the playoffs, and especially a neighboring school in the same area in Stark County. Supporting Stark County football when you're in Stark County seems to be a big deal the more I've been around it, and I think it's pretty cool. So they have been supportive of that. I can't speak for Jackson,
right,
but I can speak for us, and at least the people in the community seem to be pretty supportive.
That's awesome.
You look, that was Division II. You'll have Perry and LaSalle. Now, Division I, you're pretty familiar with.
I am.
As Huber Heights Wayne is going to take on St. Edward.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at, you probably know a lot of the players on St. Edward.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that matchup, because that matchup you went through last year.
Been through it twice, actually. When we won our first one in 2010, it was, Braxton Miller and Huber Heights.
Yeah, now that, I'm sure a lot of people know a little bit about Braxton Miller.
That's such a good game. Yeah, it was
it was
oh my
pretty
God,
good.
that was a good game.
But yeah, talk about what you went through, the championship feel. I mean, is it a different feel compared to the rest of the playoffs and regular season, and what you look forward to watching Huber Heights Wayne team take on St. Edward a little bit?
I think it depends, what the year is. Every year it seemed like that I was in the playoffs, lucky enough to be in the playoffs, had a different feel. And it really depends on what team you have. Like last year when I thought we had a talent-loaded team, and a team that was seasoned in the playoffs, all those type of things, and with a lot of returning starters from a team that lost in the Final Four, it was pretty much a business-as-usual type of feel through most of the playoffs until the title game, I would say, just based on the fact that we won by a comfortable margin. I think every game was a running clock until the finals.
It was.
Yeah.
And so, Ed knows all about that. And no offense, Ed. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up.
He actually, I think, forgot about it up to that
that's
moment.
Okay.
Right
I can bring
No,
it up.
I don't think he's ever forgotten about it, actually.
But so that had a different feel to like 2010, when the previous year I think like St. Ed's was like 3-7. And then we were a 3 seed, and we played like, Glenville had Cardale Jones at quarterback. We played Solon team that was undefeated. We played Whitmer team that was really, really good, and then the next year went to the finals, and then we played Braxton Miller. So I don't think in that year it was different because we were pretty much the underdog most games, or people thought we weren't going to win most games. So you have a different feel at that point. It's definitely a different feel to go in as the team, with a target on your back. I mean, there's more of a nervousness, I think, as a coach to don't screw it up than it is let's see what we can do type of thing like it was in 2010.
No, you probably can't speak to this because you weren't there, but, obviously it was pretty shocking St. Ed's first game against Cleveland Heights. That was a very, very tightly contested game, and St. Ed's, didn't win by, I think it was 20-16.
20-12.
20-12 was the final. Now, do you think it was a little bit of that? The guys coming back, winning a state championship last year, and then going into that first round, do you think maybe there could have been a possibility that, hey, we're supposed to be back here, we're going to take it easy, or was it just an unreal performance by Cleveland Heights?
No, I can't speak for because I didn't even watch the game, so, I haven't really watched them at all.
Right.
So
I guess in your opinion.
In my opinion, I would say the 1 versus 16 matchup, which you get in Division I, is kind of tough because you're going to play teams that maybe don't have a great record. And kids are kids. High school kids are high school kids. They're going to look at, thanks to the internet, they can turn the internet on and see what that team's schedule was, see what teams they lost to and beat, compare those teams to teams maybe they played. As soon as you play that game, you get yourself into trouble. You think, hey, we blew this team out. I don't know if they played like a Glenville, but I know that St. Ed's blew Glenville out. If they compare scores with, like, say, a Glenville and a Cleveland Heights and see that Glenville maybe did well against them, for example, I don't know if that happened this year, then all of a sudden your kids, high school kids, as a coach, you could say whatever you want. I remember last year we lost to an elder team that I thought we should have beat when we were the number 1 ranked team in the country at St. Ed's. And we went in there, I think regardless of what you tell the kids, that this team's coming for you, you got to be ready to go. They take their foot off the gas pedal. Kids are kids. I mean, and all of a sudden now you're in a situation where you really clench it tight like we were talking about before, and now you start making mistakes. You start turning the ball over because you're like, oh, my God, here we go. We could possibly lose and get upset, and there's nothing worse than that feeling, getting upset by somebody. So I think you clench it a little tight, and all of a sudden Cleveland Heights, I think, maybe had a lot of positive mojo, started to feel like they could do this, that the world was against them.
Right.
And then things went the way they did. Ed's pulled it out. I think the better team won that day, but you get in those situations and it's tough. Kids are kids.
Yeah, and as we see, that kind of snapped them into shape. They really have
pretty efficiently.
Haven't had any struggles yet. I mean, this game on Saturday will be a struggle for them. It always is for a state championship game. So I just want to get your opinion because you've seen on both sides. So pretty cool.
You've seen it all. We're talking with Jon Hunek, offensive coordinator for the Massillon Washington Tigers. And, looking at some of these playoff games, I mean, you now looking on the outside know, Massillon Washington not in the playoffs. And this is probably the first time in a long time you haven't been in. How is it now watching maybe from the outside? Are you keeping track of the playoffs, or are you taking some time off and saying, you know what, let's just step away? Because I know you got hockey, too, coming up.
Yeah, first time in 8 years, so that's kind of weird. My wife gets a kick out of it because she's like, oh, man, you don't have to go till December. This is pretty sweet. I will say it was tough not practicing on Thanksgiving, because I've done that the last 2 years. That's something that's kind of cool to say that you're practicing on Thanksgiving. But to be honest with you, one of my buddies, Coach Miller at Massillon, he likes to go to games and things like that, and is part of a group of guys, like a lot of guys do, and go to the title games and things like that and watch them. I've just never been that guy. I mean, if I'm not in, I don't really want to think about it. At the end of the day, it kind of just, excuse my language, just pisses me off that I'm not in it or that I lost or anything. And so, it's just been something that hasn't really been on my radar. I'll check the scores, shoot a text to the kids that I still know and I'm really close with at Ed's, say congratulations or hey, good luck. But other than that, it's something where, I just kind of keep out of it. To be honest with you, as lame as it sounds, I took like the Twitter app off my phone for the last couple weeks, just based on the fact that I don't really want to see updates all weekend. I want to focus on my kids and not think about football during the weekend and not be frustrated.
Now, when does that Twitter app come back on the phone?
Well, it'll come back. You guys will tweet me out today, so I got to bring it back today. But once hockey season really kicks into gear, and probably after this week, I guess as lame as it sounds, I don't know what to say about that, but it kind of helps me kind of refocus on football, especially with the kids, and focus on a new season, and to focus a little bit the time that I have that I kind of use on the side for hockey as well, and focus on teaching, as hard as that is to believe too. So
I wouldn't call it lame. It's being competitive.
Yeah, I guess.
It's being a competitor.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I appreciate that.
Speaking about competing, you guys are ramping up for another hockey season here, huh? When's the first game for you guys?
Well, we were in Buffalo 2 weekends ago with some exhibition stuff and split there, which is pretty good because you're playing teams that are prep teams. If you go out of town and or out of state, and prep teams usually have 50 or seniors on them, and that's kind of the way it works. And a lot of those either Canadian teams or teams in the Buffalo, New York area, even in Massachusetts, they do a similar deal. So you got sometimes like 14-year-old freshmen playing against 19-year-old seniors. So it's great competition for the kids. I guess we've come to the opinion at St. Ed's with hockey, Coach Gray does such a great job with this. He just schedules such a tough schedule where at the end of the year, you may not think, hey, their record's not that great. Last few years we've made the finals. We made it our first 2 years, had a break in 2 years where Holy Name beat us. We had a really nice team, did a great job there. And then last year got in. You look at our schedule, you're like, but once we get into the playoffs, because we've played such a great schedule, like we were talking about in football, your kids are ready. You don't see anything that surprises you. And at the same time, you can kind of hold some stuff back in a sport like hockey throughout the year you may have in store for a team that you see all the time, because regular season really doesn't matter. I liken it to kind of the NCAA tournament in basketball. People ask me if I watch NCAA basketball. I go, no. What's the point until the tournament starts?
Right. Yeah, every team makes it.
And obviously there is a little bit more of an issue there, but in high school sports, high school basketball, high school hockey, everybody makes it.
Right.
So you don't have to be good till the end of the year. So you can really, in that case, focus on just improvement throughout the year. Take your lumps. If you need to, bust kids at practice when you have a game the next day because you're not getting the job done and just need to get on their butts, you can without a fear of that game costing you down the road. So it's just a different animal than football in that regard, and which is interesting. And the approach we've taken has paid off for us. The fact that we're not going to really necessarily, I don't want to say don't worry about the regular season. We want to win. We want to win games like we just talked about. I want to win everything I do, but the ability to kind of look at it from an outsider standpoint and be like, well, okay, yeah, we lost today, but what can we take and get better of from this game instead of worrying about having to win to get in?
And you guys are in the Great Lakes Hockey League.
We are, yeah.
Do you guys check out the preseason rankings at all? Beforehand, they had Ignatius first and then St. Edward second. And if you see that, do you put that on bulletin board material for your players?
The interesting thing with hockey is that I think it's similar like basketball, like AAU and stuff like that. A lot of the kids play maybe with each other nowadays, in the off season. And I know, there's a lot of travel programs that our guys play on in the off season so they can start getting recruited and continue to play. So, kids kind of know what other kids got, and they kind of know how guys are going to be ranked. And really, we just hammer home with our kids that, at the end of the day, rankings don't really mean a lot. I guess in my experience with football and hockey, I've gotten burned a couple times with getting highly ranked, the kids all of a sudden thinking they're good.
Yeah.
And then, kids are kids. They're going to think, well, we're good now. We don't necessarily need to listen to you in practice, or we don't need to, regardless of the success that you've had. I've been lucky to be pretty successful. You'll still have kids that look at you who've played for you on successful teams and be like, well, I'm going to take it easy this practice, even though coach probably knows better than me, because all of a sudden they think they're good because of the rankings. I've also been on the other side of that, where I think we've benefited from other teams being highly ranked, thinking they're good, and upset some teams. I mean, we beat a 39-0 St. Ignatius team 3 years ago to go to the finals, who was an unbelievable team. I think, Coach O'Rourke is one of my good friends, does a great job there. Coach Shane Holtz, one of my really good friends, does a great job there. But the kids are kids, and they're going to think that they're really good, and you're going to be able to sneak up on guys. I'd much rather be that underdog team than the team that's highly ranked. And so I'd be happy if we were unranked. I'd be happy if we were ranked 100th out of 100 teams. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the composition of the team looking like this year? You guys got a lot of seniors. I mean, what
we
are you guys looking at there?
We have a lot of guys returning at the forward positions from our last year team that played in the finals. The negative of that is we have a couple guys that play on the football team that are playing in the state championships this year, so we haven't had a chance to get them really going yet. They're probably some of our top 3 guys play significant minutes on the football team. So getting those guys back will be big, but we're really, really, I think, deep on the front end. So at forward, we're really deep. Got a lot of guys coming back. Curtis Celeste, who's one of our better players, will be a junior. Jordan Hoy is a 4-year varsity player for us, so we expect big things from him. He'll be a captain this year. And then we got a lot of other kids that we expect to really do good things for us, but we're really young still. And I think that's a positive that we got a lot of guys coming back from last year who are still young. I mean, one of our leading scorers is a junior. It was going to be a junior this year. And a lot of our top 9 guys, you look at your top 3 lines at forward, the majority of them are underclassmen. So that's a positive, in my opinion, that we're expecting big things from them, but still expect big things in the future. At the same time, we have 2 forwards, Sean Steckel and Jordan Hoy, who I mentioned, who are seniors. We expect big leadership out of. Defensively, we're super young. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Our defensive coach, Brian Keller, played hockey at Ohio State, is a great coach. So I can see him doing really good things, because we're really, really talented, just really, really young. That seems to be my theme this year, is talented but young.
Yeah.
Hopefully this one works out a little better than the last one. But, and again, hockey, though, is just a different animal than football, because kids are playing from they're like 3 years old. Like my daughter is 3, and it's been on the ice since she's been 2.5, skating. So it's just a different animal, with those kids playing the sport for so long at an organized rate. And really, hockey, although you play a different system, doesn't necessarily change. I mean, you talked about installing a system in football. That could be significantly, like Coach Wakefield running the wing tee is a heck of a lot different than what I do. If I ran the wing tee, I think I'd blow my brains out. Just because it's just not what I do. It's just not what I feel comfortable doing. It's great if it works for you. Awesome. Obviously it's worked for him, but hockey, a lot of the game stays the same. So it's not like you got to reteach something on a year-to-year basis, even if you're new or even if you have young kids. So the hope is that those young kids will come along pretty quickly. And again, the nice thing is, if you focus on improving a sport like hockey, a sport like basketball, where you're going to get into the tournament, as long as you don't get a terrible draw based on your record.
You want to play the number 1 seed, like in the first round.
First, have that bad of a record, but we're lucky that our team is going to be pretty good on most nights, because we got good players. And, even if we're a mid-level seed, we feel pretty confident. And then really, I think the strength of our team is goaltending. Warren Hill comes back after being our goaltender for the last 2 years. And really, I think he was the main reason why we made it to the finals last year and beat a really good St. Ignatius team in the district final last year. And so him being back's huge for us. And he's a senior, so it'll suck to lose him. We got a great backup goaltender for him, Stewart. He's a great backup goaltender. And so, I think we're good for the future, but we expect big things from Warren this year. And I'm looking forward to the year. I really love the kids we coach. Chance for me still to be somewhat involved at St. Ed's, a place that I love to be at. And we start tomorrow. Our first league game's tomorrow against Walsh Jesuit at Winterhurst. So Serpentini Arena, I guess they call it now. It'll always be Winterhurst to me growing up.
Yeah.
And so looking forward to that. So it should be pretty cool.
And you have, Ignatius, you have University School, Lake, Holy Name, Padua, Walsh, and Gilmore, all in the same division. Talk a little bit about some of those teams. You've played, actually, St. Ed's has played all of them. Do any of those teams, represent any problems or, some?
It's the best of the best.
Yeah.
And that's what I think
is
a
tough conference.
And that's the coolest part about it. I think they did a great job. We moved from the Red North, which was kind of the conference I've played in for a long, long time in the Greater Cleveland Hockey League, and moved in and created kind of this Great Lakes League 2 years ago. I believe it was the first year that it was in existence, and I think it's been great. It's a really cool thing. Sean Evans, who kind of runs the league, does a great job, and it's a lot of fun, because they have They have a really great website that does a great job keeping up to date. They do a newsletter every week. So really the things around the league that kind of keep it, I don't want to say in the media, but keep people informed about it is really what's been the big step, I think, in the right direction from what the Cleveland Hockey League was. That's no offense to that league. You know, I played in it growing up, had a lot of fond memories of playing in those games. But, I mean, this is kind of, like you said, the best of the best in Northeast Ohio. So it's kind of preparing us. I think whoever comes out of Northeast Ohio prepares you to play in the state tournament, especially the Final Four. And, you know, St. Ignatius is always going to be good. They got a great coaching staff. They got great kids, you know, and they're always going to be good. They got a great tradition there now. You know, Pat O'Rourke's done a great job building up the tradition there. I was lucky enough to be a part of his staff when he won his first state championship. So that was I coached at St. Ignatius for 4 years of hockey, and so he and I have become really pretty good friends and remain pretty good friends. So he's a great coach, going to do a great job. University school, always good. You know, they're going to be always be good. Always going to be a threat. You know, Walsh, who we have this weekend, is becoming a really big-time program, is really doing a nice job there. Padua on the rise. Coach Coyle there is doing a really good job. So a lot of teams in the league are really good. And I think, again, I'd much rather play. It gets you more excited to coach that week, and it makes it a lot more fun when it's going to be a good game every week. You know, if you're going to step on the ice, it's going to be a 10-0 rout. I'll be honest, tough to get hyped for that. You know what I mean? It's more like the let's get in and out of here type of thing. And sadly, that's the same thing I think that the kids get. And it's no fun for anybody. Come on.
Yeah, let's be honest.
We appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, especially looking at the first couple of games of your playoff run last year. I mean, 18-0, 10-0, 11-1.
Now,
it's like I mean, you're in the playoffs, but those are the teams that you have to play.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And I think that goes true in every sport, though, that, you know, every sport that everybody makes it in. You know, you'll see basketball games like that as well. So I don't think that's indicative of our sport being any different than the norm.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
Like that, but you're absolutely right. You know, it's let's make it through healthy.
Right. Yeah,
you know, that's no offense to the teams we play, but you're just trying to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, without any major injuries.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on and talking a little high school playoff football, Massillon Tiger Football, and we even talked hockey.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So
cool.
Thanks for taking time to come in. We know how busy you are, and
cool.
always a pleasure to have you in.
I love being here. It's awesome.
Thank you, sir. As
Thank
always.
You. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Jon Hunek. He's with St. Edward Hockey, also with the Massillon Washington Tigers. I want to thank him for coming up to Z's Cream and Bean here in Hinckley, Ohio, 2706 Boston Road. We're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network, and presented by RRT Productions. Want to thank everyone for listening. Have a great week. Good luck to all the teams in the playoffs, and we'll catch you in a few weeks. Two. Few. Same thing, right?
No.
He muted you, Ed.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
What did you mute me for?
Sorry.
He's the one saying dumb stuff.
A few is two, right?
No,
No,
few
that's
is
a
3 or
couple.
more. A couple.
A couple is two.
Are you and your wife
A couple
few?
is 2. A
Yes.
few is 3 to like 6, because then it goes to several.
Wow.
I think we're just going to mute
right.
everyone and go home.
We're Sports on Tap,
Peace out.
part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. We'll see you later.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Join Sports on Tap the first Thursday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, as Sports on Tap talks local Ohio high school sports, Cleveland sports, and national sports topics. It's all happening at Z's Cream and Bean the first Thursday of every month starting at 7:30 p.m. Join us.